you ready?
No.
Hi, hello, welcome. This is our very first episode of Mom, Can We Talk, a podcast where we basically talk about all of the weird and awkward things that people wish they could talk to their moms about. My name is Paige, and this is my mom, Lia. I don't have any credentials in this, but you do.
What are my credentials?
Yeah, what's your deal?
My undergrad is in Human Development Family Studies, focusing on family systems, parenting, child development, some mental health.
So you know things.
I know some things. And then my master's is in prevention science, where I get to develop programs and implement them and evaluate them.
So we're going to talk about all the things that you went to school for.
Okay.
And you're going to give your input and you're going to give your motherly advice. I'm going to talk about my generation. You're going to talk about your generation. And we're just going to have nice, open, uncensored conversations. And it's going to be fine.
Yay. I just want to put out there that I'm not an expert in anything, but we can create a brave space for us to just sit back and have great conversations.
You haven't done anything like this.
No.
Before.
No.
We're going to do a nice little icebreaker. And the rules of the icebreaker are I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And it's going to be like rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you the question, and the first answer that comes to your mind, that's what you're going to spit out. And this list, so it's a list of 32 questions every girl wants to ask her mom, but never would. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Are you really proud of me?
Yes.
Was I a mistake?
No.
And were you a virgin when you met my father?
Yes.
Oh. Did you lose your virginity to my father? This is not rapid questions now.
Wait, we moved into
we've moved into it. You've moved us right along into it.
I didn't lose it. I gave it freely.
It was a gift. It's a gift. Do you think he was a virgin?
Yeah, I do.
You lost your virginity to my father?
I gave it.
When you were how old?
18.
And you got married when you were how old?
21.
How old were you when you got divorced?
44.
44?
Wow.
So between the ages of 18 and 44, you had only had sex with one person?
Correct.
That's wild. Wild to me.
Okay. Say more. Why?
Because the first time, the first person that you have sex with, it's awful. And then the next time that you have sex with, the next person, then you learn a little bit more.
Yes.
And you're like, okay. And then the next time, so then it just gets better with each new person.
Right. But I would also argue that if you were in a healthy relationship, that you keep learning from each other and you express what you do and what you don't like.
I think back to the first time I had sex, and if I kept having sex with that person, I don't think it would have ever gotten better. You learn stuff from other people.
You do, but you also learn from your partner. I want to point out that where I was in my comfort in sex when I was 21 through 44 is much different than where I'm at 54. I didn't really like sex when I was married. Probably because, as you were saying, going back to, is only one sex partner, not really exploring, not allowing myself to explore, having these very narrow-minded thoughts on what sex looks like.
Okay,
so really didn't enjoy sex. Then once I got divorced, took a little break.
Yeah.
A long break. Then was reintroduced to it and really enjoyed sex.
Was having sex for the first time after getting a divorce weird? With a new person?
Scary.
Yeah.
Not scary, anxiety-provoking. That might be a better word than scary. Do I know how to do it well? Am I going to perform? All of these questions on how good I was. Am I good enough? Or the fact is, what if I really, truly don't like having sex?
Did you want to just get it over with?
Yes, a little bit. Unlike you, though, I do form attachments with people I'm having sex with. And so, yes, with that first initial one, it was, we're just going to do it. We're going to be friends with benefits. I haven't had sex in years. I didn't like it. Is that going to be the same?
And
then it's like,
how was it?
It's like, oh my God, sex is amazing.
It really is, though.
It really is.
It just blows my mind that you can have sex with the same person from 18 until 44.
It kind of blows my mind too.
That sounds terrible.
Which kind of, when you were growing up, that was kind of the tension for me is, because you and I have had open conversations about sex forever, it seems. Right? And so one of the tensions for me was, do I encourage you to have multiple partners, or the traditional, you should wait and only have one partner, you should wait until you fall in love with this person, blah, 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 blah. All of those traditional values.
So you went the route of do whatever you want, be safe about it, and the joke was that you were going to keep a basket of condoms on top of our fridge.
Yes. Yes. And yet, then when you did engage in sex, I panicked.
Freaked out because I was 14, which is crazy to me.
Like, young.
That's so young.
And I'm pretty damn sure that you weren't using condoms.
No.
Yeah. So you weren't being safe. Then going back to the parenting side is, now I feel like I wasn't doing my job to teach you don't have sex until you're older. Not having safe sex, unprotected sex, you could get pregnant, blah, blah, blah. So these are all the things that were running through my mind. Even though I said, oh yes, have not multiple partners, but explore. I didn't really need to explore as early as 14.
14 is too young.
14 is too young. When do you think an appropriate age is?
16.
16. Why 16?
If you can't drive a car, you shouldn't have sex.
Okay, what do those two have to do with anything?
I think they're very similar.
Okay, that's a stretch.
They're the same. No, I think 16 is a good age.
Okay.
I mean, but 16 is still young. Maybe 17. 17 feels like adulthood is beginning. You've got a job, you're looking at finishing school, your brain's evolved a little bit more, and then you have sex.
Okay.
No? What do you think is the right age?
I don't know.
Definitely not 14.
14 is a little young.
When you were growing up, how did you learn about sex?
Like the physical act of sex, or
Yeah.
Oh, Paige.
Did you walk in on your parents?
I have done that.
How was it discussed by, like, your family and your friends? Like, did your mom talk to you about sex?
She did.
Was there a negative stigma around it about, like, waiting till marriage, you should be doing that?
A little bit. So I was also taught that men really only wanted one thing from women, and that was sex.
Did they teach it in schools or no?
A little bit. You know, they separated.
Okay, yeah.
They separated the boys and the girls. We talked about, development, human development. We talked about periods.
Yeah.
I don't know what the guys talked about.
Yeah, what do they talk about? I feel like there's a lot more for girls to talk about.
Right.
Okay.
And then they send you home with this little booklet that you're supposed to read with your mom. Did that. So it was very mechanical.
I mean, that's what it was like when I learned about it, too. They, like, separated us into different classrooms, boys and girls, and did the whole thing and put the tampon in a glass of water and that whole thing.
Do you think that the way that our family talked about sex was more open or different?
I don't know, because we were very open, but are we more open than other open families? I don't know.
I think when I talk to friends that are my age and I talk about the conversations that you and I have as adults right now, they're even shocked about the openness that you and I have.
Everyone has sex.
Right, but I don't think that most families talk about it as openly as we do, even as adults.
People are weird, but people probably think we're weird.
Yes.
But people are weird in the stuff, like, everyone has sex. It would be like me talking to you about the fact that I have to go poop. It's the same concept. It is a basic thing that almost all humans do.
Right. So why don't we talk about it more?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we talk about it?
I don't know. Some people don't talk about pooping either.
Right.
So, I listened to a podcast the other day by this girl, and I'm going to have to bleep her name, but her name is Princess.
Okay.
Oh my god, that podcast really just blew my mind. She was talking about going to sex parties. She sees sex as just like, oh, I want to share this experience with my friend because I enjoy them as a human.
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely living her life as if it was just a basic human instinct, that it's just, I feel a connection to you and I want to get closer to you. It doesn't have to be romantic for her specifically.
Right.
She opened my eyes. I was like, this is a hot take. This is good.
Some people might think that this woman I'm assuming it's a woman, having sex as a form of connection and as a form of expressing her love and appreciation for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might think that's weird. Other people might think that going to sex parties or anything that is outside the realm of what normal sex is weird.
I think it would be fascinating to be a fly on the wall. Have you been to a sex party? Have you? Like a legit, like a sex, like, club? Like, where they have to pay a membership?
No.
Right.
When I was first introduced to this lifestyle, there was judgment on myself. I could never do
Why?
that. Because again, it went against everything that I was brought up to. When I got divorced, sex fascinated me. So I started reading. I think what really opened my mind was Sex at Dawn and Mating in Captivity. Kind of just broadening my horizons around what sex looks like and what relationships look like. So that just kind of broadened my very narrow sense of what sex would look like, right? Like everything that I've been doctrined into when I was a child. Everything that I brought into the marriage. Everything that I brought into the sex. Your father was probably more open to new ideas than I was. Yet read these 2 books and I go, oh my God, I like this. And I don't know if it's just because it resonated because I wanted it to, or if I actually truly believed what I was reading. Anyway, so then I go, okay, this makes sense. It's talking about whether monogamy is actually feasible, why we do that. So broaden my horizons on that. So then, now I'm really curious about sex. I'm curious about the human behavior behind it. I'm curious about the emotions. I'm curious about what makes good sex. Then obviously curious about how do you have great sex? What does that look like? So then I start talking to friends who I know have an alternative lifestyle than what I have been brought up with.
I'm amazed.
I start talking to them.
Who is it? Do I know them? You don't have to say it. You can tell me after.
Then I go into this from this researcher mind of mine, this curiosity mind. So really then exploring what polyamory looks like. And going, well, can I do that? And then, no, I can't. I realized.
I couldn't do it either.
I don't like to share. So attending these, like 101 sessions, learning about it, going, oh my God, they still have the same emotions that we do, people who practice polyamory.
Mm-hmm.
Still jealousy, still that fight, trying to navigate relationships. Relationships are really hard, right? In the best of circumstances, and you add a third person or a fourth person, it just becomes more difficult. I have attended
bondage classes. What's that called? The art form of that? Didn't you do that?
So more of the shibari.
Is that what it's called? With like the rope and stuff?
Yes.
And yeah, I was telling my boyfriend about that the other day. You went to one of those. I don't know what we were watching, but I was like, oh, my mom went, Sex and the City. They went to a class where the teacher had sex with her husband in front of the entire class to show and demonstrate. And I was like, my mom went to this weird thing one time, and I wonder if they did this, because I'd go to this workshop.
Again, you're putting that judgmental phrase on weird.
Not weird. When I say weird, I don't necessarily mean it in a bad connotation. Weird is like a positive thing for me.
Okay.
You want weirdos to surround you that think differently from you, that have this alternative thought process on whatever it is. So it's not in a negative connotation that I say weird. Like, to me, it is the same as saying like interesting, alternative. Like, I would say that I'm a weirdo, you know? Okay. It's not the negative part.
So is this a generational thing, or is this
not
a you thing? Because when I hear weird, that implies to me that there is a judgment behind it. Alternative might be a better word. And why do we box everything into this very vanilla, what things should look like, and anything that the outlier of that is weird or alternative? What if it's just on a spectrum?
What kind of sex party have you been to?
So,
walk me through it.
I'm not going to walk you through it, but I went to a 101 class, okay, just on
sex parties?
On the polyamory. Again, going into this with a curious mind, right? Like, not participating.
A lot of people just go and they just watch, but it isn't weird or anything like that. It's just there. Yeah.
Okay, so, but my whole thing is I'm going to learn. Like, I kind of want to understand the behavior behind this.
It's like a research study.
Right, like behavior science.
Yeah.
Right? At least that's what I tell myself, right? So I go to, like, the shibari, a 101. This person is kind of just teaching people can practice their craft, their art, and then, like, participated in that. The only thing that I did was, have my wrist tied.
Okay.
And there was something, it's like, oh, this is kind of hot. Right? And then they were just my wrists, right?
Okay. Tell me more.
This is kind of hot. Like, okay. I am giving up control. And for some, there's that seduction behind that. So I'm giving up control. I'm giving you my control. Then I've gone to a couple parties, and they were okay. They were just okay. It was just like a very intimate, dark place where there were various spaces set up that you could
walk through.
That you could land on, that people could watch if they wanted to watch.
Kind of like people watching.
Well, so then this is also where I have this tension is, if I'm not participating, do I have any business being there?
That's a big part of it.
But yet, there are some people who really enjoy being watched. Right? So I don't feel like I'm intruding. So anyway, it was so various people just doing various acts. I'm not going to go into much detail. So I've gone to a couple of those. There is a place in Denver where you do have a membership. I've not been. I've been invited.
It's very expensive, but cheap for women.
I've been invited, but I have not gone, but a little bit intrigued.
That's wild.
So when I originally learned about this, like this was actual thing.
Yes.
Before it was just like, ooh, that's weird and that's kind of kinky. Then the idea of...
See, you just said weird and kinky in a weird way.
Right. Because
you're like, weird and kinky. I'm like, weird and kinky.
Right. But that was my perception of this
okay.
prior to learning more. This submissive and dominant side of it. Why would a strong feminist woman ever give up her power?
Because she's too strong all day long. She has to be strong, and independent and grinding and getting shit done. That's why. So she wants that time.
Right. In my mind, I could not really get there. It's like, why would I ever give up my power? And I think that was also the way I was raised as well. Like, do not give your power up to men. And then, which then implies that there is this battle between the sexes, which I don't really like either. So I could never understand that perspective of it. Then having my hands bound, just my wrist, it was still a little, ooh, this is kind of intriguing. I kind of like this. And there's also this idea, a friend had sent me an article on really BDSM. And for traditional couples who practice traditional sex, missionary, just nothing really outside the box, there's not a lot of communication happening around sex. There's not a lot of communication happening about what you like, what you don't like. Yeah. Can we try something? Can we explore? So there's not a lot of communication going back between a traditional couple. For couples who practice BDSM, from my understanding, is because of the acts that are happening, there has to be so much trust.
Yes.
so much communication going back and forth between the partnership or the couple that they almost have better communication styles. There has to be safety.
Right.
And there's also this perspective that, and again, I'm very limited in my knowledge around this, but this is what my limited reading has been, and having conversations with friends who practice this lifestyle. It is the submissive who tends to hold the power, if you will. The dominance parts.
To obey.
Well, to obey, but to create a sense of safety. In order for the submissive to be able to give up all control, there has to be a sense of safety.
You should be a dominatrix, I think. I do. I think you'd be great at it.
Yes, so there you go.
So, you're freaky these days. Not in a weird way.
Freaky for
You're
me.
freaky. You're freaky. You get going.
Oh.
You do some shit.
I do some shit.
You're in the prime of your sexual life.
Which is odd, because usually that happens around their 40s, women in their 40s.
Yeah.
I am exploring and having some fun.
What advice would you give parents when it comes to talking to your kids about sex?
So this is a really challenging question. As we started this conversation, people have different values around sex. The one is create a space, a brave space where your children can come to you and talk to you. So yes, so that is my thing. Regardless of where your values lie, create a relationship with your children where they feel comfortable and safe talking to you.
That's good. You gotta thank everyone for watching and listening.
It's been fun.
It has been. It was our very first one, and was it as scary as you thought it was gonna be?
A little bit.
Really?
A little bit, yeah, but not too bad.
Okay.
So.
And we'll be back next week with another topic, but we're not gonna say what it is.
Oh, we're not? Okay.
No.
It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah. And if you want to follow us on YouTube or anywhere that you get a podcast, anywhere, Apple, Spotify, anywhere, you can follow us there. But we'll be back every Sunday. Good talk.
Thanks.
You're welcome.